Good nubbins, peeps. Liesl here once more, and tonight I'm coming to us with something of a mini bits between the bits, really. Basically, to catch us all up on the latest progress of what Liesl's been up to. So, yeah, without too much waffle, I'm going to say straight in. Now, I did record a video earlier today, and then a humongous storm came over. Yeah, and basically we lost internet and the whole thing just went tits up. I did rush the initial video. I tried to keep it to about 5 minutes so that it would hopefully upload a bit quicker. But what I'm going to do is take our time this evening and hopefully upload this one overnight. Yeah. So there's a little bit of a precursor to the video. And straight in. So, what have I been up to? In response to all our wonderful suggestions, comments, and what have you, I have come up with one or two interesting builds, I do think, that will incorporate sort of bits of all the suggestions. I will explain. So, yeah, basically, if you have seen the community posts, you will know that we have the continuing saga of the Stumpf stick. And here's the Stumpf stick, which, as you can see, it is collapsible. We are going to make some modifications to this, but I thought I'd run you through it briefly. So yeah, we do have the resonator plate fitted. Finally, I have managed to get hold of a new pair of tin snips. So I think I might tidy this up a little bit, take away some of the excess metal that is inside. But to give you a rough idea, this is roughly how it will be. I'm going to replace the stick itself. I'm going to replace the stick itself with basically a square thin piece of wood, because I think it would be better to keep this instrument sort of collapsible, not like this, but to be able to take it apart, and I will explain why. The two cables, as you can see, they're not making much sound at the moment, are actually secured in the bottom with a couple of eyelets, a couple of grommets, and attached to a couple of machine heads, so we can actually remove these if we need to. The one stumbling block I did find with this double piece of wood is it made it rather difficult to thread the cables and the string on the back for the diddly bow or the canjo, because I have incorporated a canjo into the back of the instrument using our rather posh Oxford Mathematical Instruments box, case, tin. Yep, there is a triple piezo which I have mounted on the side, and yeah, it's a bit difficult to see now, but the piezos are kind of buried in the back of the two struts, the two wooden struts, and there it is. The canjo is sounding good in any case. We do have a slide, so at risk of like knocking everything over in here, I will try and demonstrate ever so slightly. Obviously this will be generally played upright. As you can see, it's hitting the top of the can. So modifications are required. The cables on the back, I think basically they need to be a longer scale length. Yeah, I have tried them percussively. Yes, by hitting them with a stick. They do sound quite good when it's plugged in. but I think we can improve on that. I want to relocate the horn on the top. Yeah, because it's a bit obstructive being so close to the handle. The handle does come in handy because this does actually weigh quite a bit. So yeah, and you can see that when it's upright anyway, it'll be sort of hit that side and then run up and down with the slider. Hopefully, that's the idea. I wanted to catch us up on this because there was so much interest in the Stumpf stick. And yes, I must admit, I'm very intrigued. Now, we do have additional whistles and bells to go on there. Yeah, I have a whistle and a couple of little cowbells, which I'm hoping to incorporate into the instrument. And yeah, that's about it really for this one. So there will be more on this later, obviously. But there's a very brief kind of overview of the Stumpf stick. So more about this one later. The musical odyssey, as I did borrow the phrase from Les. Yes, having looked up the word odyssey, I am inclined to agree. So anyway, I'll leave that one there. Now, I have also been engaged in something of a build, something that's been on the back burner even before I started this channel really, and something my friend, that I have wished to do. Sorry, it's getting late here. Trying to speak Queen's English at this time of night is not easy for me. Let me start again. Something I have had on the back burner for quite some time, since before I even started this channel, which is basically a folk balalaika. Now, if you're interested, I will do my very best to show you how it will look once it is complete. So basically, we're going to have something like this. Now, if you're not familiar with balalaikas, they are somewhat similar to a lute. They traditionally, historically, always come with 3 strings. So these are a 3-string instrument in any case. And as you can see, it is a rather wonderful triangular shape. Now, I did buy some pegs. I bought 6, so enough to do 2 guitar builds. But everything else on here is basically scrap wood. I had a couple of decorator boxes that got rather damaged when I was moving up here from the south of England, because I basically was throwing them around and things. And a wooden crate, which had sort of seen better days. So I dismantled the lot to make the body. Here's the body. And if I take away the front, you can see that inside are 2 supports, which are actually offcuts from the rest of the build. So yes, I would say that in a way this little instrument has kind of helped to build herself, which I think is rather wonderful. And I do have a lot of triangular offcuts still. I could actually make 2 or something else similar. But I do like the way that the build kind of helped itself along the way. Like we say, we learn from each other, and we learn along the way in the University of Life. Yep. And there it is. So yeah, it's quite a deep hollow instrument. I'm hoping we'll get quite a nice sound out of this. Yeah. Now I will bring us something more on homemade wood stains. I know I keep saying this. Again, there have been some obstacles. I was actually going to go and forage some blackberries, as we have many bramble bushes in this area where I live in North Wales. They are indigenous to the UK. and the British Isles, I should say, really, perhaps. Sorry, it's getting late. Only the local council came along yesterday and cut down a lot of, trimmed and tidied up a lot of the hedgerow, so we've lost a few of the blackberries. Now, there is quite an abundance of them, so next time I go into town, hopefully I will forage a few, because I think they may make a nice wood stain. I've never used blackberries before. I will catch us up though on using the haldi powder or the turmeric. Do some slightly more detailed videos, because way back I did some very brief ones, but they didn't really cover how to mix, and use these things. And I'm hoping to give something of a kind of walnutty blonde tone to this instrument here. Now on the front, I've done some slight decorations. These stripes are actually natural from the wood, because this was like a large decorator box. These stripes at the top though I did do with coloured pencils, as well as the rose around the sound hole, basically to make it look something like a traditional prima balalaika. Obviously this one's a little bit more steampunk. As was commented, it will stand up on its own, although I do plan to put a piezo pickup in the back. I think it will still stand up on its own, mind you, because I've had similar instruments in the past, and yeah, they've stood up. So thanks, Brand, if you're watching this. Yeah, there it is. I have to say I'm quite excited about this one. But another point that was raised in the comments, and was quite a popular question, and I've not tried before, so I'm going to try now, is basically how to work out fret positions for various different scale lengths. Now I have achieved this balalaika here. Traditionally they do come in different sizes, whether that's, I don't know the proper names, you know, like concert, tenor or whatever, but there are very large bass ones that basically rest on the floor, and there are little soprano ones, and this is based on the scale length, etc., of a prima, as it is known, which is probably the most common kind of balalaika. Do your own research if you're interested in that, or you may well know already. Now the folk balalaika, which is like this one, especially the kind of more artisan instruments, do generally have 16 frets and something like between 17 and 18, I think on average around 17 3/4 inches scale length. The more like manufactured ones, if you like, the more professional ones, they have anything really up to about 24 frets, and at this end they start to get very close together. Yeah, so I thought we'll go with the folk one. This has actually got 15 fret spaces because I mucked up the 16th basically. But I'll show you how I went about it. So yeah, two things really. I went online and basically typed into Google free fret calculator, and this is what I come up with. So if you just go in, and on my second phone I think I can show us, type in free fret calculator, and the one I favour, there are many, they're all great, but the one I like is this one here. I don't know if you can see it. No, you can't. But it's called Stumpf anyway. I do apologise. As you can see, I'm totally unprepared. But basically, if you go on there, and this is, Stumpf or Stumax, there is a section at the top which basically says number of frets. So with this one, yeah, I did put in 16. It says here typically 19, 21, 22 or 24. And then underneath there's another box. I don't think we can really see this. No. Which asks for scale length. So it's number of frets and then scale length. You have the choice of inches or millimeters. I always work in inches. It's very self-explanatory when you go on there. And then it gives you the option for different instruments. So there is electric guitar, acoustic guitar, bass, banjo, mandolin, dulcimer, or ukulele. Now, unfortunately, there is not a choice for balalaika. So having done a little bit more research on the internet, the main advice that I found on there was basically just to go as per acoustic guitar. Same thing, put in the number of frets, put in the scale length, and that should be accurate for a balalaika. So that's what I'm going to go with. Now, there are two ways you can do it, and it gives you both values on the fret calculator. From the nut at the top, you can either measure the first fret, and then when you come to the second, you can measure that again from the nut to the second position. But what is recommended is to measure from fret to fret, because you get a more accurate result as you go further down the neck. So that's what I did. And basically, they do not work out at very even lengths. You know, in other words, you can have, some of them will be fractions of an inch, like quite small fractions of an inch, or even 0.5 of a millimeter or something like that. So yeah, you need some quite accurate measuring equipment. Now, what I used, very cheap and cheerful, cheap as chips, as we say here, is basically a digital ruler. Now, you can get these on Amazon, anywhere, Temu, all these sorts of places. I picked this one up from Amazon, I think. It was fairly inexpensive. I can't remember what I paid for it, but it did not break the bank, you know. Again, it gives you the choice of inches and millimeters on there. And if we switch it on, you see it starts at 0.05 or something, 0.02 of, I can't see whether that's in inches or millimeters. I really can't. I do apologise, peeps. But basically, yeah, it gives you the values, it gives you the measurements, and as you move it up and down, you can see that, yeah, it will go to fractions of an inch. Now, sometimes you'll get something, you know, just off the top of my head, 2.456 or whatever. I tend to go with the old mathematical rule. If it's sort of 2.4, then round it up to 2.5, or if it's 2.54, round it up to 2.55 or whatever. So if it's above 5, let me start again. If say it's about 2.26, then I'd just go up to 2.3. If it's 2.22, I might round it down to just 2.0. I don't think that tiny discrepancy would make a big difference to the sound, or, you know, the to the notes as you're playing. Because basically, if you remember back when I built Guinevere, she is a dulcimer fretted, so diatonic fretted. I didn't have one of these. She has a 25.5-inch scale because I just measured her against an electric guitar that I had at the time. So she's far from accurate, is what I'm going to say. My initial prototype, which was Gemma, which I don't have anymore. She did come apart at the seams a little bit, as I hadn't really put it together very well, and she was a prototype. But yeah, that one was she was a bit out on the 12th fret. But I think if you're sort of a millimetre out or something like that, 1/16 of an inch, it's probably not going to make a lot of difference. Way back in the day, I did find a video by Shane Spill where he actually gave a more kind of averaged out, rounded up, rounded down version. And for the life of me, I can't find that video now, sadly, because on there he gave the sort of values. But, you know, in danger of waffling on in Liesl style a little bit too much, I will leave it there, right? You get the idea. Any questions, put them in the comments, and yeah, hopefully when I've had a bit more sleep, I'll be able to answer those a little bit better. So yeah, that's basically how I went about it, really. Just put everything into the calculator. It comes up with 2 diagrams. It shows you how to measure from fret to fret, or how to measure from the nut with the different fret positions down to the bridge. And I think it might even show you how to go from the bridge upwards. But yeah, I would recommend going fret to fret. I used a square just to get the slots nice and straight. Now my fretting saw has had it. It's 10 years old, and I've used it for all manner of things. So I had to use a small pull saw, which means that these are a little bit wide, really. What I intend to do is use either super glue, which is an old cigar box guitar builder's trick, or epoxy resin, and just fill in those and then add the frets. So yes, that'll be fun and games without getting it everywhere. If you're using epoxy, I would recommend if you could get something with a very small pipe so that you could just very evenly lay that in. With super glue it's a bit easier because it has a very small nozzle, and sometimes it comes with a bit of a tube, so you can actually lay the glue in the bottom and then just add the frets. Yeah, tap them in gently. I'd say leave them for a couple of days so everything can harden off quite nicely, and then when you come to file the edges and what have you, like I did on Guinevere, not a bad job. They will stay put, and yeah, she sounds reasonable. I mean, there's the 12. Not bad, and she's far from accurate, so yeah, don't be shy, give it a try. You know, as you know, I very rarely build fretted instruments. In fact, this is about the 3rd time I've ever done it. So yeah, hopefully these positions are good. The slots I think are quite straight. I did use a carpenter's square to get them as level as I could. But again, if they're a little bit off, I don't think it'll make a lot of difference. This is a prototype, by the way. Yeah, it's come out rather nice as a prototype. The peg positions are straight, more or less, but I got them a little close together, as you can see. I'm not going to worry about that. They do line up quite evenly, and even if one's ever so slightly at an angle, you know, cocked as I would say, using my old-fashioned vernacular, I don't think that really matters, you know. It doesn't matter to me. It's a artisan instrument. It's not actually a cigar box guitar, technically speaking, because I used scrap wood, but it's a junk pile guitar. Fairly high, because we've got quite a deep body. I filled in the front because I was initially going to put a bolt through that and just bolt it into the body. but I changed my mind because of, well, basically neck stability. So I did add a heel in the end, and this little backstop here, which keeps the whole thing nice and level, what have you, was actually the corner pieces out of the wooden crate that I broke down and dismantled. So yeah, you know, using bits from the original box to create new bits for the instrument build. And there it is. So we're at 25 minutes. Now my last bits between the bits was about 40 minutes, and it took me about 17 hours to upload. It's not usually quite that slow. I have heard from a friend that there have been some internet problems in the region in general. So yeah, hopefully this will go on overnight, and hopefully it won't fail halfway through like the other one did. Got into a little bit more detail here, and I think really that's just about everything covered. I'd say we've got a couple of minutes, so very quickly, if you remember Gertrude, who is the Little Fred, as I'm calling it, signature guitar. So the Little Fred is the style of guitar, like a Les Paul or whatever, Stratocaster. Gertrude is the name of the instrument herself. She will be the first thing that I have ever strung with nylon strings. I did attempt to string something with nylon strings, you know, where you wrap them. I didn't have much success. All right. So I come up with this little idea. We're using a flip-flop hinge for the saddle. And I basically, with some epoxy adhesive, I knocked out rivets in the holes, and then with a hacksaw just took the backs off. So I'll probably just thread the strings in and tie knots in the end. I know that's very unprofessional, but you know, it's the first time I've ever done it, so I thought that was probably worth an explanation. We used the neck from the ukulele kit that I acquired. Yeah, I think it's quite nice. It's held in with a bolt at the front. I did suspect you might be wondering what happened to the body from the ukulele kit. Now, if you think this is a little bit obtuse, do put it in the comments. I'm not sure what I feel about it yet, but I did come up with what I am calling the gitty bow. And here's the gitty bow. So we're going to make it into a diddly bow using this guitar-shaped body. I thought I would grace it with a bit of a headstock, a bit kind of like abstract art styley. That's filled with epoxy resin there, which I coloured using artist's acrylic. Again, it's all scrap wood because there is a nut and bolt in there. No particular reason, you know, I could have pegged it, but I just thought I'd do it that way, and then to make it look a bit nicer, put a bit of epoxy. This is just a bit of fun, really. It was definitely a case of go back to your diddly bow, because my brain was fried with the balalaika and the Stumpf stick. So as I always say, go back to your diddly bow, do something simple, yeah. There's no pressure, you know. Same machine head as we have on the balalaika. Again, it's all scrap wood. This was some really rough scrap wood, but I sanded it and the grains come out lovely. And all that's had on it is tea. Nothing else. Now I know that I don't often use commercial lacquer or anything, but I have bought some clear, yeah, as I'm going to give these shiny bodies. So yeah, some clear varnish. Yes, you know, very low toxicity, this stuff. It doesn't set off my allergies, so it can't be that bad. And there it is. So we're coming up to 30 minutes. So I will say ta-ra for now. Whatever you're doing, do stay safe and stay blessed. Okay then, pips, on the next one. Bye for now then. Bye.